In this video, we are talking about Agile Project Management Delivery Framework. Now, this Agile Project Management Delivery Framework is introduced in the Creating Innovative Product, the book written by Highsmith. Now, it's a global framework which can be applied along with any Agile methodology. Scrum, feature-driven development, or even extreme programming, you can fit any methodology in this particular framework. Now, this framework talks about 5 phases. The first phase is Envision. The second one is Speculate. Third one is Explore. Fourth one is Adapt. And fifth one is Close. Now there is a migration from initiating, planning, executing, monitoring and controlling, and closing phases. Traditionally, we have been using words like these. Now, the difference is important. Now, why we are using Envision at the place of initiating is that this framework recommends that we should put focus on visioning exercise. Before we start the development, we should create a project vision. This vision will guide us while we are executing and working on this particular project. In this phase, we also talks about the objective of the project. We also talks about constraints. How much time, how much money is available for this objective. We need to know that. We need to visualize that. So that comes along during the Envision phase. We also need to identify a project community. Who are the stakeholders? We need to have a visualization or understanding of those people. This all we do while we are in Envision phase. You can think of creating an initial vision, a project objective list, identifying the stakeholders who are important for this project, identifying amount of money, amount of time organization is thinking of investing for a given project. So once we have this vision, what do we do next? Traditionally, after initiating the project, after getting a project charter, we start doing planning. Now here we are using the word speculate. Now planning is also estimating or visualizing something on the basis of available information. But lot of time people think that planning is equivalent to commitment. So if I am saying that I am planning to release after 2 months, few people will understand it. They are releasing after 2 months. They are committing to release this particular feature after 2 months. In order to fix that, it uses the word speculate. The word speculate communicates the uncertainty involved at this particular stage of the project. It is saying that yes, we will try to identify what are features we would be able to deliver at a given time frame. We will make a release plan as an output of speculation. But since we are speculating, expect some deviation. Expect that we will learn as we will move. It is not something which you can take it as a commitment. So as an output of speculation, we get a release plan which is at a top level, which facilitates rolling wave planning, which facilitates us to explore and adapt. Third phase, where we really start working on working software. Explore. So whatever release plan we have made, whatever set of features we thought of releasing in a first release, we start scheduling them in a given iterations and we start developing the working software, or we can say a slice of a working software. Now this slice will help the stakeholders and the team to understand what is working and what is not working, what changes they need to do in their working style or in their release plan. So the exploration, the real working follows by an adaptation. So we keep doing exploration and adaptation cycle and we keep updating the output or the speculation which we made initially. So we started with a release plan, we start exploring and then we start fixing or enhancing that particular release plan on the basis of results we have found. At the end of, once we have a complete PI ready, complete software ready, we say, okay, this is your software, get the business value, we document the lessons, we document the historical records, we hand over the product to the operations, and there we close the project. Now, the exploration adaptation is kind of a continuous activity, and as an output of it, we would be keep modifying the release plan. So at what frequency we should modify the release plan? Ideally, at the end of every exploration cycle, we should be modifying the release plan. So if we are done with the iteration 1, we should take the learning and modify the release plan. In some cases, people modify the release plan after few iterations, so after alternate iteration or at a frequency. Now, when you are running an iteration, you are at exploration phase. For example, if you say that I am implementing Scrum, which phase I am? I am confused. I am in iteration 2, where I am. So all your iterations from 1 to n will happen as a part of exploration phase. And at the end of an iteration, when you are modifying or you are doing retrospective, you are taking the adaptation activities and then you are modifying your release plan and again following the next iteration. So iterations are happening here. So when we do all this, when do we create vision? When do we create release plan? The initial one, what happens before we get into the iteration 1? Before we get into the first exploration cycle? Now, a term called iteration 0 may help you in visualizing the time and the activities which we do before starting on an iteration 1. Now, iteration 0 is an indication, the 0 is an indication that whatever we do here does not produce any working software. It is not producing anything which is consumable by the end user. That's why we say iteration 0. But whatever we are doing is an important to start this iteration 1. It helps us in creating an environment and setting up the expectation for our stakeholders so that we can start the iteration 1 to n. Activities like initial level of training, visualizing the initial level of architecture. If you are working in a complex project where multiple teams are interfacing with each other, a first level of signature identification or a broad architecture identification can happen in iteration 0. So whatever which gives a value to the team and required to be done before you start working on iteration 1 falls under iteration 0. So what should be the duration of iteration 0, you may wonder. It should be kept to minimum because remember it is 0. So better start producing some values. But again, depending upon the complexity of environment, nature of the project, the duration may vary. Do we baseline the architecture in iteration 0? Do we baseline the release plan in iteration 0? No. We don't baseline the architecture. The architecture is emergent in nature. But we visualize the first level architecture which is sufficient enough to start the iteration 1. If your project is simple, the iteration 0 may take only 2 days or 1 day of work and you start your first iteration and start working on it. So Agile project management delivery framework talks about 5 phases envision, speculate, explore, adapt, and finally when we have a working software, the final product, we close the project.